Hello again, this is News Today. Thank you very much for your company. In our first story, what has antibiotic resistance got to do with deafness and losing one's family? The looming global public health disaster became very real and personal to 48-year-old Al-Hassan Musa when a third-line antibiotic made him deaf in one ear. Many antibiotics prescribed to him were ineffective because the bacteria that attacked him had grown resistant. Solomon Jojo Kobin and Kweku Asimenu Forson bring you a short piece of documentary titled If Symptoms Persist.
Al-Hassan Musa looks perfectly normal as he goes about his work that puts food on his table. You just need to go beyond the surface to realize his life is not as peaceful as it may seem. When he was attacked by tuberculosis, everything he valued in his life vanished.
I thought it was malaria, so I started treating malaria. All of a sudden, it couldn't went off, so I went to clinic at Akawi, Gansaf Municipal Health, and they treat me, but they couldn't treat me for the TB because the doctor couldn't get it. When it happens like that, my wife left me.
Drugs prescribed for him would just not work, forcing him to seek spiritual help.
To go and try herbalist. So I went there and I went to home trying for the herbs, but still, my parents, they didn't accept. So they said they took me to Agbozume. My grandfather came from Agbozume for herbal treatment. I said, no, I will not go anywhere. I put my trust in the Lord.
Antibiotic resistance occurs when antibiotics you take simply refuse to heal you. The spiritualist Al-Hassan Musa consulted could not heal him either.
Doctor said, no medicine, I should wait. Oh, my Lord. They said, so far as I've taken the first course and the second course, and the drugs couldn't work, there is no any drug again that can cure. The time I was taking the drugs, I could see that there is small change, but not too much change. Not until I finish. After a month, then it comes again, and it comes worse.
This is very frustrating to healthcare providers such as doctors, but for patients, luck might be the only way out. Luckily, Al-Hassan Musa got in touch with a health worker who referred him to Kolabuche's clinic, where he's being nursed back to good health slowly. The clinical pharmacist at the Kolabuche's clinic explains the challenge of antibiotic resistance in Ghana is a time bomb because first and second line drugs are failing to function.
It's a big worry to me. I call it a bomb because if it happens, meaning you have a patient presenting with infection and the antimicrobial agents that you have around would not be effective. So what then do you do? So it's a big issue and needs to be tackled.
Patients who would not respond to basic antibiotics, it means they have to rely on third-line antibiotics. But taking those drugs sometimes come with distressing consequences. Because
of the ear problem, I can't wear. Because when I could see the picture on the television, but I don't hear the sound. And due to this situation, my customers are harassing me.
A typical example is maybe a patient who might have failed TB treatment, and this patient is asked to go on another treatment for TB using a different drug. Some of the patients have lost their hearing. They can't hear. That is one. Some of them, their kidneys have been destroyed as a result of the medication, the higher medication that we are using. The side effects, disabling side effects that you might, some patients will present with when they start using this second line or alternative antibiotics. which are more expensive and very toxic.
Easy access to antibiotics in Ghana, its abuse and patients' lack of discipline to finish the full course of antibiotics have been blamed for the current problem.
Antibiotics were actually developed in the 1940s. Before then, infections were killing a lot of people, was wiping a lot of populations. And when these antibiotics came into being, they became very useful. Unfortunately, we are at a stage or a point where now we are losing the effectiveness of antibiotics, and everything boils down to abuse, misuse, etc. So if prudent measures are not taken now, we will get to a point where greater majority of the infections that we have, we will not have any antidote for them again.
We stepped onto the streets to demonstrate how easily antibiotics could be purchased without a prescription.
One. How do I take it? 2 capsules. 3 times 3. Oh, okay. So this, I won't take the full box. I'll take this one. How much is it? 70 pesos.
This happens at many outlets across the country. Medicine shouldn't be sold openly in vehicles and on the streets.
Let me see your box.
Fortunately, it happens.
Put this in something for me, like. I don't have paper, that's why. I was asleep.
When antimicrobial agents are expired, do we know how they are disposed of? How do the people in the market who are selling antimicrobial agents, how do they get their drugs? Are they good quality drugs? And for the general public, we have to know that you don't just walk to somebody and say, give me 4 capsules of ampicillin, because the last time the doctor gave it to me, it was good for me. I mean, these are the things which happen, and therefore, in a way, people are taking antimicrobial agents into their body all the time. They may not be effective, but the bacteria in your body will get adjusted to it.
Right, so away from antibiotics, let's move on to something else that has to do with the environment. The environmental protection. The reporter on this beat, Ridwan Osman Dini Karim, who's joining me over the telephone with a quick update on this. Thank you very much, Ridwan, for your time. What did you find today upon visiting the place? Hello, Ridwan. Hello, Ridwan. Can you hear me? Hello, Ridwan. I'm sure Ridwan cannot hear me. We will re-establish contact with Ridwan, and then we'll bring you back that conversation. But the Environmental Protection Agency is asked for a sample of the substance believed to be diesel that was found on some drain in Agbogloshi here in Accra. There's more news after this. Don't go away. Back over the telephone. Hello, Ridwan.
Yeah, Kamini.
What did you find today on your arrival there?
Well, the people I met when I went there on Saturday are all gone, but I found this guy who was able to give me a sample of the liquid, which is suspected to be diesel. And so I'm here at the Environmental Protection Agency to actually give them the sample, and perhaps they will take it to their laboratory do some testing to find out exactly what the liquid is.
I see. In your interaction with these officials, how long do they think this testing will take?
Well, I spoke to the NPA earlier, and they are not aware about the situation. And they say they are going to deploy their men to go and assess the situation on the ground, take samples, and also go and examine and find out what exactly the content is. And the EPA is also not aware of the situation. And so I am actually here to give them the samples so that they can take it to the laboratory and do the testing.
Let's talk about the area where you found this oil. What sort of health hazard does this pose to residents in the area?
Well, I mean, basically the place is a very dirty place. I mean, you know Agbogloshi very well. The slum and the poor sanitation and all of that. And so it's very dirty. But interestingly, these people were very willing. I mean, the deal to fetch and at the end of the day sell to get money. They just jumped into the drain and they were just fetching the liquid.
But you, as a reporter, you're taking a sample to the EPA. Do we know why the EPA could not do this itself?
The EPA is not aware. I just called to find out whether they were aware of the situation and what exactly they would be doing. But they said they are not aware. And since I was at the scene, I decided to take the liquid and bring it to the EPA for them to do the test and find out what exactly the liquid is. You know, this is a developing story, and so we also have to help them so that we will know whether indeed the drain it has a diesel potential, or it was somebody's filling station that has suffered a spillage.
I see. Thank you very much, Redwan, for that information. Let's move on to something else now. The Obuasi Municipal Assembly says it may resort to seeking a court injunction to stop private development of a land mapped as a disaster safety zone. Residents who are rapidly developing the land are adamant to evacuate the area. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Noordi.
This parcel of land was not zoned for human settlement because of the possible dangers associated with living here. After the construction of the water reservoir between 1996 and 2000 to supply water to the municipality, it was recommended that Amangwase, which is close to the water storage facility, should be protected from development for human settlement to avoid any calamity when the reservoir overflows. Years later, Amangwase has become a residential area and the recommendation has been overlooked. It is alleged that some chiefs in the area demarcated the land to residents for the development without considering the dangers. Authorities say it would be a bad idea if residents here are allowed to continue to live with the potential dangers. Joy News gathered that when the reservoir overflows, life becomes unbearable for residents, hence the need for the evacuation. Some residents have also decided to build on the hill without considering the dangers that may emerge. The Municipal Assembly has already commenced the inscription of stop work on the buildings, but residents simply ignore the markings. According to the municipal chief executive, Richard Ofori Ajimabuidi, all the buildings in the area have no permit and advise residents to take immediate measures to evacuate. Assembly member for Bediesu Amangwase Electoral Area, Savannah Eje, also expressed worry about the situation.
My advice almost say, it's serious, but was in sure to know who first through his son. As a woman, and a mammy be cried die or a real one that was sorry, Anna. A popony boo in a boo dine. And to Nina, almost sure are still almost down, thanking home crime more. To mess room, woman to move.
An appeal to residents to evacuate.
Let's talk about the Judgment Debt Commission now. Now, the commission has resumed its sitting on as at March 24, 2014, at its new location. Judgment Debt Commission established to investigate judgment debt payments and related matters. Today, we are there for you, and my colleague Justice Bedu is joining me over the telephone now for a quick update on what's been going on at the Judgment Debt Commission. Hello, Justice. Ouch, we lost Justice there. And, well, we'll put in efforts to raise Justice Bedu over the telephone. But we are the Judgment Debt Commission sitting today. We're trying to re-establish contact. My colleague Justice Bedu, bring ourselves up to speed. What's been going on? And, well, we lost Justice over the telephone a few minutes back. We should raise him briefly. But this is news today. Stay on. There's more news ahead. There's business. Thank you very much for staying on here on News Today. Before the break, I was telling you how the Judgment Debt Commission has resumed its sitting at its new location after the fire. I'm sure you recall that fire. Now, we are there today for you, and Justice Bedu has joined me over the telephone. We'll get a quick update on what's been going on since the sitting started today. Hello, Justice.
Hi, Kemini.
Tell us what you've gathered so far.
Not much from today's session, just the usual way of questioning various recipients of various amounts of judgment debt and to find out what exactly had accounted for those payments. Today, we had representations from the Bank of Ghana to explain the circumstances surrounding 3 separate judgment debts that were paid to 3 individuals, and to tell why and how those payments were made. A very critical issue that the sole Commissioner, Justice Appel, has raised today is the issue about government accounts, and he thinks that because there are a lot of different government accounts, some of which do not really have exactly what they are meant for, it gives room for the payment of what he describes as judgment debt that could be dubious. So, for example, in today's session, there was an issue about the payment of judgment debt over land acquisition for the establishment of the Aveime livestock project in the Volta region, about whom over $2 million is said to have been paid under around those that particular project. And the Bank of Ghana officials who appeared say they did not know who exactly those payments were made to. But then the payments were made, and so because the sole commissioner was told that there were lots of government accounts, it creates room for payments to be made when you don't know who exactly is receiving the money and what for, Kemini.
I see. What else should we expect today?
So the sole commissioner has asked that the Attorney General and then the Ministry of Finance appear before it to explain what goes into all of these government accounts and how they operate. So we are expecting that the Attorney General and then the Finance Ministry will have representatives appear before the Commission to give account of these 2 particular issues, but then also to interrogate all the other beneficiaries of various judgment debts in the coming week.
Thank you very much, Justice Bedu, for that information. Justice Bedu joined us from the sitting of the Judgment Debt Commission. Let's get into some business stories now. The Bank of Ghana has directed all banks to deploy e-switch point of sale terminals at all their branches and agencies by the 30th of June this year and issue the card to every other customer. These and other directives are contained in a letter to managing directors of banks in the country. According to this letter, the banks are also required to deploy the hybrid POS at all existing and future acquired merchants. Additionally, these banks are supposed to integrate all existing switches into national switch. The central bank is also asking all banks as well as savings and loans companies to ensure that they provide e-switch services at all times. The directive provides further that banks as well as savings and loans companies which do not have switches should arrange to be set on the e-switch platform or acquire a switch and integrate into the national switch. Now, let's get into some development. Development economist at the University of Oxford, Professor Christopher Adams, is called on African economies to develop tax systems that focus on equity and redistribution on the economy. He also called for the judicious use of public funds to propel economic growth and development.
The Africa Economic Research Consortium 2014 is an annual program aimed at strengthening local capacity for conducting independent, rigorous inquiry into problems pertinent to the management of economies in sub-Saharan Africa. On the agenda is public finance, tax and expenditure reforms in Africa. The 5-day workshop attracted over 100 economists from Africa, including the governor of the Bank of Ghana, chairman and vice chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ernest Aite, called on governments to improve on its tax reform to propel the economy.
I think the lessons there are very, very obvious. It's very much a common sense approach to how to run an economy. It's my hope that all African governments will be listening to it, essentially telling us how we can improve on our expenditures, capital expenditures, and use various ways of financing these expenditures in a manner that should not be detrimental to the overall progress and overall expansion of an economy. So we have here an assembly of people that are very devoted and committed to their economies. It's our hope that their recommendations will resonate well with African governments. It's through research like this, done by young Africans, that you can bring about change in the region.
Development economist at the Oxford University, Professor Christopher Adams, said Africa must focus on raising revenue at the least cost.
Taxation is necessary if we want a provision of good quality public goods, and public goods increases the productivity of the private sector. It's the complementarity between public goods that taxation finances and private investment that is going to generate growth in Ghana, across Africa, across the world. So, speaking as an economist, there is a fundamental necessity for taxation. The objectives, though, in any tax system are to raise revenue at the lowest possible cost, imposing the least amount of distortion, the least amount of burden on the private sector, but also to do it in a way that recognizes distributional concerns. We don't want our taxes to be overwhelmingly burdened on the shoulders of the poor. We have in the back of our mind a notion of a fair tax, a sense that tax is in some sense proportional to the capacity to pay for taxes.
He also said tax system should be equitable and motivate investors.
Tax policy advisor at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, Dr. Labisian, said property rates and rent taxes will soon be reviewed to reflect the current economic value. Property income taxation has long been seen as an area largely neglected by the country's tax authorities. Its share of GDP in Ghana is 0.03% compared to an average of 1.8% in Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development member countries. In the UK, for instance, taxes on property are worth 4.2% of GDP, while in the United States, the Russian is 3%. However, Ghana's recent fiscal challenges with less than expected tax revenues and a hefty budget deficit have caused attention to be shifted to property taxes. Last year, President Mahama, in a bid to tackle one of the key impediments to efficient property tax collection, directed the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development to make certain that all streets in the country are named and houses also numbered within 18 months. Dr. Sian believes this project will provide the requisite data for government to begin a review of the current low property and rent taxes. And well, the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunication is asking government to cut taxes on mobile phones. Government imposed a 20% tax on mobile phones, I'm sure you recall, somewhere last year, as part of what it says are efforts to increase revenue. The move has seen a surge in prices of handsets, but CEO of the chamber, Kweku Sechiado, told Joy News on the sidelines of the 4th Ghana Telecom Awards that increase in tariffs on the industry would stifle its contribution to the growth of this economy.
In August 2013 imposed a 20% tax on mobile phones, cellular and satellite phones imported into the country. Government says it is seeking to raise up to 49.8 million cedis from the tax to support its developmental activities for the year. Mobile phone manufacturers who have operations in Ghana in response passed on the charges down to consumers after several calls on government to reduce the hikes yielded no result. But CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications, Kweku Sechiado, says government must reconsider the decision.
ICT ought to be affordable. We give subsidies to some inputs for certain sectors of the economy, such as fertilizer, for agriculture, and so on and so forth. Well, if we cannot give subsidies for mobile phones, at least we can do something about the taxes that we put on them, because it will only make handsets more expensive and unaffordable by ordinary people. If they have access to devices, they will use them, they'll become more productive, they'll become more efficient, and their small businesses will grow. And as a result, the economy will grow.
This year's Telecommunications Awards, the 4th in the series, saw Vodafone Ghana come top with the most awards. They were trailed by Airtel Ghana, Tigo, and MTN respectively. Akin Naftal is the CEO of Instinct Wave, organizers of the awards.
And the industry needs a platform like this to showcase what the ICT is doing with the Ghana Telecom. So an event like this is to accept that the industry have come of age. And with ICT, there can be better implementations toward the economy. So we need to celebrate our people. And this platform provides the unique opportunities for us.
The awards that we get out to?
Our plan is to have 5 years involving in the categories. So after 5 years, we'll be able to have more consistency. For the past 3 years, the award has been different, because we want to bring more stakeholders, more industry players, not to focus only on the telecom, but other industry people that are supporting the growth of the telecom, and you can see that it's reflecting on the categories.
The award seeks to rope in more players in the ICT industry in upcoming events.
Right, you recall earlier in the course of the broadcast, we brought you a story where my colleague Redwan Karim Dini Osman was taking a sample of some substance found in a drain, floating on a drain in Agbogbloshi for testing at the Environmental Protection Agency. Now, at Agbogbloshi is believed to be diesel, but let's find out exactly what his visit to the EPA has brought. He's joining us live from the Environmental Protection Agency. Hello, Redwan. Right, and so now there's a bit of a delay in the broadcast, and so we'll take time for Redwan to be on your screen. But here's what he's about to do. He's about to engage the Environmental Protection Agency on some substance found in a drain at Agbogbloshi. Now, a lot of residents in the area decided to get into the drain and scoop the substance because they believed it was diesel. Now, so Redwan took a sample of the substance to the EPA, and he's engaging the EPA on this matter pretty shortly. He should join us live on News Today. I'm glad I get to bring you this afternoon. Right, so it's time now for some arts and entertainment. You recall at the beginning of the bulletin, I told you that we'll be engaging entertainment reporter on what ensued in court as far as Nana Isiama Hansen, also known as Bulldog. He reappeared before the court today. Rebecca was there for us. Rebecca Darko was there for us. Tell us what happened in court today.
Well, court, the case has been adjourned. They didn't find any. They're still working towards it. Bulldog was there. His wife was there. He wasn't tensed. His lawyer has been talking to us.
Let's listen to that soundbite, and then we'll come back to his demeanor in court briefly.
Sure.
We don't sometimes understand the manner in which they are doing this work. You see, I've told them, and the High Court was on point on this matter. And what they are doing what you call a fishing expedition. You see, you are clicking on straws. And instead of acceding to that request, say now, you see, before they said there had been text messages from his phone to the guy's phone. You heard it on the radio. But today you heard that they are now saying that they now want to go into his phone to see communication on his phone with a deceased person. Total confusion. Total confusion. So clearly, as I've indicated, there is nothing to click on. Trust me. So we have objected to that application, and of course they should bring reasonable grounds why they want to go into his private phone. You cannot just come to court and say, let me go in somebody's phone. You must show the basis, the reasons why you want to go onto his phone. So on the 30th, when we come back and they show reasonable cause why they must go onto his phone, maybe the court will listen to their requests. But we think that there is no basis, there is no need, because they have not shown a case why they must go onto his private phone.
Michelle, I heard
public. You understand? Me and you have heard in public that there has been text messages from the guy's phone to the deceased person's phone. But today, you heard it yourself, that they are now seeking to even go into his phone. We told you from day one, what they are doing, they are just doing speculative trial. We don't do a trial like that. It's like witch hunting. You get what I'm saying? So,
Interesting interpretation there by Bulldog's lawyer, Gary Nimakon. That's it. Yeah. But, the whole movement with Shatta Wale, because he happens to be Bulldog's manager, what was general demeanor in court?
Shatta wasn't there. There was no Shatta fans, Shatta movements, nothing like that. It was just Bulldog himself, his wife, and few friends, family and friends. That was it. It was cool, calm,
and collected. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Rebecca. Rebecca Darko is our entertainment reporter here at Joy News, and she was in the court for us earlier today. That'll be all for this quick